Dun, 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 dun. Hello, everyone out there in the internet. Welcome once again to Lansing with myself, the weekly show where I take 5 minutes out of my time to talk about game design and being a freelance creative and writer in a world where you might be low on spoons and low on cash. And this is our 50th installment, which is 250 minutes or what? 4 hours of amazing little tidbits that you can listen to now, and we thank you for supporting the show. 75 of you are subscribers now, which is amazing, and if we can keep hitting that like and subscribe button, guys, we can get it up to 100, which is when all the algorithms start unlocking and noticing my presence. So please like, subscribe, comment, check in, tell me what you want to hear about as well, and thank you so much for supporting so far. I'm going to do a little bit of a talk today to honor our 50th show, to talk about my favorite mechanic, favorite rule in a game, and why it's my favorite rule. And in this case, I'm talking about a game, and I'm going to open up this screen so that I get this right. It's called Yggdrasil, as in the Norse tree of mythology, the tree of Norse mythology, which held the 9 worlds, and it was designed by Cedric Lefebvre and Fabrice Rabellino, with art by Piero. It's originally from a French company, Ludonort, but was published more widely by Z-Man Games, and I have their 2011 Z-Man Games, which also came with the expansion. I think it re-released in 2012, which is fantastic. It's also being rebooted as Yggdrasil Chronicles. About a year and a half back, it was on Kickstarter, and that's a different twist on the game that has a campaign mode, because everything's got to have a campaign mode these days. But the original one is where this rule comes from, and it comes. The rule, for those who don't know, the game was probably the first bag builder, certainly before Orleans, and it's a game about trying to win Ragnarok by fighting the enemies of the Norse gods. And to do this battle, you are rolling a die that does not nearly give you enough successes on a die roll to win the battle, so you need to summon Vikings to fight with you. And there are 4 different locations on the board where you can draw Vikings out. And these are mapped to 4 bags, which some of them contain Vikings and some of them contain fire giants who aren't going to help you at all. And so the game is about making sure that you can get enough of these Vikings by reaching into the bag at various times and drawing them out. If you draw out Vikings, you get to keep them and use them. If you draw out fire giants, you don't. So the balance of the game is not just about making sure you have enough resources at a time to fight, but also balancing the probabilities and trying to understand how many Vikings are in each bag and what the proportions are, so that you're using your actions to the best possible efficiency with the most likelihood of drawing the most amount of Vikings, and trying to reduce the amount of luck in that equation, or make sure the luck is mostly in your favor. Now, the thing is, because the bags are opaque, you can't see how many Vikings are in each one. You have to kind of remember. So there's a memory element of how many times did we draw out Vikings, how many times did we get rid of the fire giants, because there's another action that lets you do that. And the game has a very interesting rule about whether you can look in the bags or not, to whether you can involve memory or not. And it has this beautiful sentence where it says, you can look in the bags any time you want in the game, but every time you do, the game becomes easier. And I like that because it's one of the few times in a rule book that we acknowledge the truth about the rules, which is that they are a conversation. They are a contract that is agreed upon between the author of the rules and the people playing the game. And the people playing the game are under no obligation to play the rules as written. Whatever people might say, a game is a tool that is given to people to create a story with and to create an experience with. And honestly, it doesn't really matter if they're playing by the rules. It doesn't really matter. What matters is that everyone is playing by the same rules around the table and under the same understanding of how those rules are being interpreted. And rules decay and rules drift, and the oral tradition of rules is all part of how games are played. Everyone plays a game in an individual way based on who they are around that table and their understandings of how they are interpreting the rules. And so when we write rules and when we give a game to people, we're not giving them something static, we're giving them a tool. And we're sort of saying to them, it's up to you how you use this tool and how you decide to understand it. And most of the time, we don't talk about that. It's hidden. And this rule, what I like about this rule is it says, no, look, we understand that in this case, we can make it explicit. We can say, this rule is open. you decide. You are adults. You get to choose how hard you want to make the game. And we're not going to hold your hand on that. We're going to rip open this veil which pretends that we are the absolute arbiters of how hard something should be, and stop pretending that that's the relationship and acknowledge the reality of the relationship, which is that games are something that the designer gives to people as a gift for them to use and have experiences with. Most art is unfortunately very one-directional. You create something, you hope it has meaning to you, you give it out, and it communicates meaning to others. And if it gives them the same sort of meaning you were hoping for, it's successful. But game design is much more complicated than that, and there's a two-way street going on. You give an idea out, you give suggestions, you produce an idea of what's going on, and then the gamers, the players, look at that, and they form an agreement with that document as best they decide how to form that agreement and how to use that to make their experience. And that interactivity, that question of not knowing exactly how people will interact with things, is why games can be so fascinating and why they can be so powerful, because they're not just a static thing that sends out meaning, but rather a gift to people to interpret and use how they want. And I like that as a game player, that I can take something and go, here's what happened when we used that today with these people, and this is what it meant. And that may be different than what it meant with somebody else, even though it's exactly the same rules. And I love that as a game designer, that I can put something out there and it can change how people think and move because of how they use it. And I'm really excited sometimes with my games when they can go and just go, look, tell me what you do with this. Tell me how you use it. Tell me the stories of what it makes you think and feel. And the moments that it creates, which are moments created by places and people and time, as well as the device that's there. And that's a wonderful space to be in. It's a wonderful thing to design for. And I think we should talk about it more. And I love that Yggdrasil talks about it. You can look in the bags as often as you want, but every time you do, it makes the game easier. The choice is yours. You, the players, are in control. These are what we say are the rules, but what you do is really the important factor. That's what makes a game. And we acknowledge that, and we get to have that conversation as game designers, and we should have it more. So think about that conversation, think about being explicit about those moments in time, and yeah, think about it as you play and as you design, and have that conversation at your table and in your head, and you'll make better games because you'll understand the wonder of games themselves. Till next time, play games, be good, pat dogs, have fun.